Well, Ayush, this is a big deal. End of the internship, and I am really excited to debrief you, hear your thoughts and feedback, and also get to interview you a little bit about what you did while working on this internship. It's been a pleasure working with you. For those of you who are viewing this in the future, Ayush is an extraordinary person. He is a current high school student. I'll let him say a little bit more about himself, but he is extremely competent, very curious, and it has been a real pleasure to work with Ayush over the past few months. Ayush, maybe for the audience, you can just say a few words about yourself, kind of give them a sense of who you are.
Yeah, I'm Ayush. I'm going to my senior year of high school, and I really love programming and especially competitive programming. I love to participate in competitive programming competitions such as USICO, and I also like doing research related to computer science. Yeah.
Awesome. And can you tell me a little bit uh, about this internship? What were we working on, and why did it matter to you?
Yeah. So coming off the end of the my junior year of high school, I was really excited for this internship because not only was it my first time at like a in a job setting, but I also got to see like in a tech company how like an employee like me would fit into the end-to-end project. So that was really cool. And I had my mentor Sam here to help me through it all. Thank you, Sam, for that. That was really nice. Um, Specifically, we were working on a fraction social game that's target audience is middle schoolers, perhaps a sixth grader learning about fractions. And I worked on a specific component of this game, and that component was a digit selection portion. Um, and I think at the start when I was given this task, I didn't think much of it. Like maybe a digit selector didn't seem too crazy to make, but there's a lot of thought and effort that goes into doing this because you not only want to make the digit selector fun to use and like responsive, but you also have to think about things like who is our target user and what control schemes maybe they have access to. Maybe it would be helpful if I showed us some designs and how the end product looked like.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to see you talk about kind of what the process was to go from here's the idea to here's something that's kind of polished and usable.
Yeah. Uh, Here. Okay. So, initially, before we even got to this design drawing stage, we had to think about what control schemes our target audience would be using. And we were able to narrow down to three main control schemes, which were touchscreen only, mouse only, or keyboard only. And that's something we kept in mind when making like our, I guess, paper prototypes or designs for our digit selector. So here you can see a kind of first design we had. Here, the idea was that the user would click this plus button to add a new digit. And from this selection of digits at the top, they could kind of use blocks to drag and drop and assemble a number. Um, and like we talked about control schemes, with each of these designs, we talked about how keyboard input behavior would work, or like a mouse or touchscreen input would work. I guess I could scroll down and show you another design. This one was like a concentric ring of digits where the user would either use his keyboard to kind of spin the wheel and select the number, or you could use mouse or touchscreen to drag and spin the wheel to select a digit. Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more? I mean, like we have all of these different ideas sketched out. How did you decide which idea was the best one to move forward with?
Yeah, That's a great question. So to decide which idea was best to move forward with, um, we there are kind of two main things we kept in mind. One was, I guess, control scheme. Like I mentioned before, would the design be easily compatible with all of the control schemes we are targeting? And I guess how juicy you could call it is to use. Now that sounds like a word kind of out of context doesn't mean much. What does it mean for something to be juicy? Well, when you're, I guess maybe when you're playing a video game, maybe the core game is a very interesting and captivating game, but if the menus in the game, maybe the music and things like that aren't so up to that level of the core functionality or core idea of the game won't be as fun for the user. So I guess in this fractions game, the core idea of the fractions social game is a really great idea, but we also need to make sure things as simple as selecting a digit in the game need to feel fun and responsive to the user. Those were I guess, the main ideas we kept in mind when brainstorming which digit selection scheme to use, I guess.
So I'm kind of spying on your screen here, and it looks like maybe there's a bunch of pages after this. How many total ideas did you come up with for some sort of a number selector mechanism?
Yeah, this PDF we're reviewing here has 7 designs of digit selection things that we have brainstormed, but this was, I think, the third or second stage of elimination. Initially, we had up to 25 different ways that a fraction could be represented. So, for example, a fraction can be a decimal, a percent, numerator over denominator. So we had lots of designs, I think up to 25 in our first stage, where we had to kind of narrow it down to just one.
Do you mind if we scroll through some of these other interface sketches that you've got?
Yeah. Um, Here is a 7 segment display. So it's something you might see like um at like on a digital clock. I guess there's like 7 segments that could light up, and we have the user kind of select the segments they want to light up. And I think that would have been like a cool, fun kind of design, but maybe not so practical because it takes a lot of time and effort to select even one digit. Um,
Maybe you can give us a high-level overview of the rest of them.
yeah. Here we have just simple increment, decrement buttons. Just increasing a value with a button press. Here we have something that you might see on like when setting a timer on your phone, a 3D clock that runs into the screen. Next we have a simple slider. I guess you can drag to a max value or a minimum value. And finally, we have selected cells in a grid. So you select the number of cells you want to represent your number. So as you can see here, we've selected 6 cells, so that represents the number 6.
So before we look at what you wound up implementing, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how does digit selection fit into the bigger picture of a fractions game? Why is this such like a critical component?
Yeah. Um, why digit selection is such a critical component of the fractions game is because a digit selection is something the user would be doing constantly throughout the fractions game. So, like I mentioned before, with like the video game example, with something that a user is doing constantly, repeatedly, that's like a core function of I guess, the end application. We want that to feel very intuitive, responsive, and juicy, as I mentioned before. So, that's why digit selection was a really critical component of this fractions game. And just to add on a little more, as you can imagine in a fractions game, you will have to likely select digits very often.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see, and I've already seen, but I'd love to, share with the audience what you wound up building. And I'd also love to hear kind of what the prototyping process was like.
Yeah, uh, I can show you what the final, I guess, implementation of the digit selector here. Yeah, so here what we have is somewhat similar to a keypad, but with more like bells and whistles, I guess you could call it. So here the user comes to this box, which is initially a question mark. Now, once we click on this box, we have no current selection, but as you hover over the numbers turn yellow, indicating that that's the number you are going to select if you click. So let's say we select 7 because our random 3-digit number is 7 on the left side here. So let's say we select 7. Now, if we go back and open this keypad, I guess, then you can see in highlighted in blue is a 7, indicating that the current selection is 7. And we can select a new digit as we please. So let's say we select 2, and the blue hover color changes. And if we want to not change our selection, but maybe we accidentally open the keypad, we can use this red button here at the top right to close the keypad.
Can you tell me what's going on here with the random 3-digit number and the result count? What are those for?
Yeah, so one part of I guess implementing this digit selector, a very important part is figuring out how um how effective it is in practice. I guess benchmark testing the digit selector. So once we had made this kind of final selection scheme, now we had to test how effective it was in practice. So for example, I have this random digit number here. I want to be able to see how quickly I can select that. So let's do a quick test right here, 709. So yeah, that was what, maybe like 3 seconds, and then the count goes up. So the reason for the count here and this random digit number is so that we could see maybe how quickly can they select 10 3-digit numbers, or how quickly can they select 5 3-digit numbers. And we can also maybe compare that to typing the number or a different control scheme.
And yeah, so I mean, it looked pretty smooth while you were using it just now. I would love to hear you share with the audience some of the earlier versions and what was changed through this prototyping process.
Yes, so I would love to share how earlier versions were of this digit selector. So broadly, there were 2 categories of things we progressed on. One was functionality, does the digit selector actually work? And the other was the more important kind of style and juiciness of the selector. So for the functionality, obviously we had to take multiple iterations of the code, debugging, make sure that different scenarios with this digit selector would work. Perhaps does this red button work? Does it highlight the selected digit? Things like that. Was an iterative process to fix those bugs, I guess. And then adding on to that, now for the styling, we had to decide things like when we click this button, where will the keypad appear? And we had initially it was below the box, and we finally decided that it's best if it appears on top of the box with the 5 kind of imposed on the box. And we also have to decide things like what should the hover colors be? They should be well contrasting with the background of the keypad. And how far apart should these boxes be? So like, for example, if my 6, or let's say if my first one was on the very left side and my second one was on the very right side, it would not be very easy for the user to select this 3-digit number. So those were kind of broadly 2 categories of things that we had when iterating through prototypes of this digit selector.
Awesome. I would love to see this put through some kind of a speed test. I'm gonna pull up a timer, and maybe you can refresh the screen, and we'll see how quickly you can enter 10 3-digit numbers. Just
Okay.
give me a second while I pull up the timer.
The match count starts at 1, so I'm going to go to when it says 11. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, on your mark, get set, go.
I'm very focused right
Halfway
now.
there.
Uh,
Nice.
Pacing myself, don't go too hard at the start. You'll
All
burn
right,
out.
30 seconds.
There we go.
All right, 39 seconds. So, like you said earlier, it's about just over 3 seconds to enter these numbers, which is pretty good for using a mouse and or a touch screen.
Yeah.
Great. I'd love to change gears a little bit. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen.
Yeah.
So, I want to ask a little bit more just about the internship in general and some of your experiences working. What are some of the things that you learned?
Yeah. So some things I learned in the internship, there was kind of a business side of things that I got introduced to, and definitely a lot of things on the technology side as well. So on the business side, I learned about the company's mission. Edapt's mission is to reduce poverty worldwide by making high quality education more scalable. And I was very fortunate to be part of the solution to this. Um, I also, like I mentioned before, I learned about agile development, things like Scrum and Kanban. And I learned about how startups would get funding. So maybe if I wanted to create my own startup in the future, I could use my learnings from here to do that. On the technology side, going into the internship, I felt I was experienced programmer on the algorithmic side of things. I used C++ and Java a lot to do my competitive programming problems. And on kind of the larger projects I was a part of, I used Python. So this web development, React.js, Tailwind CSS, and TypeScript was a new type of programming to me. I had to kind of learn about the hooks and states, which was like a key feature of React. Yeah, that was cool. And more than that, I also learned about how to use GitHub in a team environment. So previously, I was just using it to, keep all my previous projects or programming that I've done there. But here I got to see how GitHub is actually used in a tech company with a team. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think one of the things that impressed me the most over the past few months is you came in with basically zero knowledge about JavaScript, TypeScript, web development, and went from, that to like building this functioning prototype.
Yeah.
I have to say I've always been impressed, Ayush, with your ability to learn things on your own. What were some of the resources that you used while you were learning about React and TypeScript and all of these new technologies?
Yeah, I think one major resource I used was common um, programming websites such as Geek for Geeks or W3 Schools, which is a um, popular website for web development learning. And I think though most of my learning was just through trial and error. You know, they say like in programming you can only learn so much by reading. But when going through like the iterative process of making this digit selector, I learned a lot. And I like when fixing bugs and maybe adding a new feature, I feel like those were my biggest strides in learning. Um, Adding on to that, I had Sam throughout the way helping me make the code cleaner or helping me debugging code. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, can you say maybe just 2 or 3 sentences? What are some of the tips and tricks that you used when you were debugging some of this code in a new language?
Yeah. Um, One thing that was one trick that was really helpful. I call it kind of like a binary search debug. So I guess you figure out is the first half of the code or second half failing. So maybe you put like you comment out the second half and you see if the first half runs without any errors, then you know it's in the second half. But um let's say the first half runs without any errors, then you look at the half of the second half, and then you see which half doesn't work, and you keep repeating that process until you isolate the error in your code. That was a really good technique we used. And I think since React, TypeScript, and Tailwind CSS, these are all things that we'll be testing on like a web browser. There are definitely some cool tricks you could do by using, I guess, Google Chrome's inspect and looking into the console to see if there are any errors there.
Very cool. Well, I'd love to ask some high level questions. We've sort of come to the phase of the interview where I want to conduct a retrospective. So we're going to look at the project as a whole, what went well, what didn't go well, and what would you do differently if you were starting over. So to start off with, what are some of the highlights of the internship for you? What were some things that went particularly well?
Yeah. Some things that went really well in the internship was one thing was the prototyping stage of the digit selector. Like I said before, when I went into this and I heard my task was to make a digit selector, I thought of it to be something very trivial. But after making many designs, thinking about control schemes, thinking about how to make this very responsive, I learned there's a lot more there, and that was a really fun process in the internship. And I think that was the biggest highlight for me. Um, Adding on to that, seeing the component work in the end and it being efficient, I think Sam said roughly 3 seconds per 3-digit number, which is really good, which is what we're looking for, I guess. Um, that was really cool. Um, and I also liked our code review sessions because I felt like I got a lot from that.
Cool. So what about things that didn't go well? And I'm aware, this will be on the web. People will see this for all time. But please be honest, tell me what didn't go well with the project, or what do you wish had been different?
Yeah. Um, so I think one struggle in the project was that I was new to this web development type of programming. So I had to spend a lot of time initially learning about how to use React, Tailwind CSS, and TypeScript. So that I think a lot of time got spent there. And I think maybe if I had more time, I guess, going in. Um, I would have used maybe use that time to maybe make another component and test it. Um, I also think I would have devoted more time to benchmark test this product, maybe using some statistical methods. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anything that you would do differently if you were to start this project over?
Yeah. Um, Something I would do differently. From where I started, if I had to look back, I think I've definitely learned a lot. Um, Kind of going back to the benchmarking work, maybe I would have spent more time of thoroughly testing the component, and I think I could have also spent diverted more of my time to maybe making another component and seeing how it runs in comparison to this one.
Cool. Yeah, I think being able to test multiple designs and even explore this further would definitely been exciting. But we have this working component and we're able to integrate it into this larger platform. I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts or any hopes about how the platform turns out or the impact that it has in the future.
Ye- Yeah, that's a great question. Um, in the future, I want this project, I want to see this fractions game being used in schools. I think that would be, being a student myself, I think it can really like revolutionize the way we view learning, and it could definitely keep students more engaged, because who doesn't love to play a video game, and I think on a more broader sense, I really like the company's mission. Like I mentioned before, to reduce poverty worldwide by making high quality education more scalable. And I really want to see the company achieve this goal. I think it's very feasible too.
Yeah, me too. I would love to see the company achieve this goal. I think in the day-to-day work, it can be really easy to get fixated on like, oh, the code isn't compiling or there's
Yeah.
some bug. But I think when the project is going over weeks and months, really keeping the big picture focus of our goal is to empower and improve the lives of people through education. And we have this, tremendous leverage by building a platform that helps to facilitate especially the things that are hard or boring for teachers to manage or for people to do on their own. I think we're creating a lot of opportunities for people to get exposed to high quality education at scale all over the world. At least that's my dream. So yeah, I would love to see that too. Ayush, I'd love to hear, and you can share with the audience too. Do you have any, personal plans? I'm sure after high school, you've got some idea what you'll be doing.
Yeah. Personal plans for the future. I guess I can share on the academic career side first. Um, Firstly, I'm going into senior year, so like in the near future, I have to work on my college applications, keeping those grades up in my senior year. I'm also currently working on a publication for a paper related to deepfake detection. So that's a fun task I have. And um, I guess after high school, I definitely want to pursue a future in computer science or computer engineering. I find like the world of algorithms really fascinating, and I think I can bring something new to the field. Uh, and I guess next summer, definitely a senior trip with my high school friends is definitely in the picture, and maybe another internship. Who knows? Yeah.
All right. Well, I know whatever happens, your future is bright. You've continually impressed me, both with your knowledge and your skills, but also with your work ethic, your diligence, your perseverance. I think that the things that you've accomplished over the past summer wouldn't have been possible if you didn't have the character that you have. And I am really excited to see what the future has in store for you. So thanks everyone for watching this interview. And Ayush, thank you for being such an awesome intern. I hope that you have an amazing school year. And I hope also that this interview can be just another small step to propel you on your journey. And with
Yeah,
that, I'm going to end this recording.
thank you. Bye.